What stalks the darkness of the night? Vampires, werewolves, wraiths, and more carve out a secret existence, hidden from the world of humanity and the lives of mortals. Supernatural plots and conflicts unfold over countless centuries, with each undead playing their part in Vampire: The Masquerade. Set in the World of Darkness franchise, the popular tabletop RPG was first published in 1991 by White Wolf and created by Mark Brian Hagen. Although the stories take place in modern society, the history of vampires stretches back to the dawn of mankind. Cursed by God for the killing of his brother, the biblical figure Caine would become the first vampire, consumed by an insatiable thirst for blood and weakness to sunlight. Caine would sire the second generation of vampires, who, in turn, gave rise to the third generation known as Antediluvians. These 13 undead would go on to found what became the Vampire Clans, before entering a death-like sleep known as the Torpor. Caine himself would disappear after cursing his progeny, now known as the Kindred, or Cainites. Infighting among the clans took place as time dragged on, culminating in the sacking of Carthage by Rome, which had in fact been orchestrated by the Ventru clan as a major blow against the power of the Bruja Antediluvian and their kindred. Indeed, proxy wars would be waged by the kindred throughout Europe during the ancient times and into the Middle Ages. Revolts by vampiric sects, the Black Death, and the Inquisition proved this to be a dangerous time for the kindred, leading to the signing of the Convention of Thorns in 1493, which formally established the Camarilla and a truce with the Anarch rebels. Essentially, the Camarilla acts as a governing body of the vampire clans, enforcing the main tenets of the Masquerade, a code of conduct requiring vampires to conceal their existence from the mortal world, as well as the restriction of diablerie, that being the practice of a vampire fully draining the vitae, blood, of another vampire to destroy their soul and gain a portion of their power. The modern knights bought on the Industrial Revolution and the rapid urbanization that has allowed the kindred to thrive once more. Now into its 15th generation, the curse of Caine has begun to weaken and give rise to thin bloods, vampires with reduced powers and weaknesses, often looked down on by other kindred. The Week of Nightmares was in 1999 Bangladesh, with the antediluvian of the Ravnos clan waking from his torpor, only to be destroyed by Asian kindred and a nuclear strike. In 2008, the Second Inquisition was secretly launched by both governmental and paragovernmental bodies after the existence of vampires was rediscovered, making the kindred the targets of modern vampire hunters. With the Masquerade failing, many elder vampires have been inexplicably called to the Middle East by the Beckoning, leaving the clans to slowly fracture as the 21st century moves forward. The hidden war involving plots and intrigue among the clans is known as the Jihad. Being the primary food source of the kindred, humans mostly serve them as prey. However, there are nuances to this relationship. Mortals, known as Caine to the vampires, are fed upon in the alley cat style, where they are taken by force, or the Sandman style, where their blood is taken as they sleep. Often, a vampire will keep a herd on hand, that being a group of humans readily available, usually unaware that they serve as a food source. The bite of a vampire is known as the kiss, and causes supernatural ecstasy. It is possible for a mortal to become addicted to this process and seek out vampires to feed upon them as blood dolls. When a mortal drinks a vampire's blood, they become a ghoul. This will grant them a slower aging process and even a small portion of the vampire's power if done for enough time. Ghouls from specific families may carry naturally occurring vampiric blood from birth and have innate ghoul powers, as well as understanding of kindred society. These specialized individuals are rare and are known as revenants, being typically bred for servitude. Other Caine may serve the kindred in a mundane capacity out of fear or monetary gain, known simply as retainers or dredges. Becoming a vampire is a simple matter, with a mortal being drained of blood until they die before being fed some of their sire's vitae in a practice known as the embrace. They will awaken as a newborn kindred, known as a child, and then as a fledgling after some time has passed. Learning how to survive alone, they will become a neonate after a few decades, an ancilla after centuries of establishing themselves, and then an elder by the time they reach a millennium in age. Rare vampires called Methuselah exist as old as 2,000 years, only 4 generations removed from Caine himself. During this time, a vampire must maintain their lingering humanity without succumbing to the beast, their innate predatory nature, lest they enter a frenzy known as the wassail and become a wight, losing all personality and operating on pure instinct as a monstrous killer. With its focus on maintaining the Masquerade, the Camarilla is indeed the largest and most organized of the vampire sects. Colloquially known as the Ivory Tower, its members value hierarchy based on age and ancestry. Its inner circle is comprised of elders, largely unconcerned with the affairs of younger kindred. Each of the Camarilla's clans have their own unique attributes, as well as weaknesses. With no natural end to their lifespan, a vampire will only die the final death from sunlight, severe bodily trauma, fire, or diablerie. Of the clans under the Camarilla, the Ventru are the foremost. Aristocratic, they are known as the Clan of Kings and carefully select new members based on wealth, power, and influence. As with any clan, they have unique disciplines as supernatural powers fueled by their vitae, with theirs being dominate, fortitude, and presence that cements their air of authority. Of course, the clans also have vulnerabilities known as banes, with the Ventru's discriminating palate only allowing their members to feed on a specific blood type, such as mortals with an emotional resonance, virgins, or specific trade skills. Founded in the 11th century by the Order of Hermes Mages, the Tremere clan first gained infamy by drinking the blood of an antediluvian named Saulot. Distrusted by other clans, the Tremere are known to experiment with blood sorcery. Typically, a practice known as blood bonding occurs when a ghoul imbibes the blood from its regnant, or master, that essentially turns them into their regent's willing slave over a period of 3 nights, becoming a thrall. However, the Tremere's bane weakens this process and gives them a mild addiction to their sire's blood. Vain and hedonistic describe the Toreador clan. Obsessed with luxury, art, and emotion, they strive to recruit musicians, models, and artists as they seek to reclaim their lost humanity. Their fixation comes at a cost, as they have been known to become captivated by sights they find truly beautiful, their bane often striking at inopportune times as they are forced to pause and admire whatever is before them. The clan known as the Malkavians are unique among the Camarilla, and that they are all afflicted by a supernatural insanity. Although unnerving to others, this also grants them a profound insight into esoteric and mysterious topics, as well as allowing Malkavians to connect to each other via the Madness Network. All vampires contain within them the beast, their animalistic nature to feed that must be restrained. But progeny of the Malkavian clan succumb to derangement when they fail to do so, suffering from a compulsion that causes them to act bizarrely. Afflicted with the most obvious of banes are the Nosferatu. With a monstrous appearance, they are consigned to living in sewers and among the shadows, since the mere sight of them by a mortal would violate the Masquerade. This nature to dwell in the darkness has made them expert spies and information brokers, however, and they specialize in the animalism, obfuscate, and potence disciplines. Of course, not all vampire clans exist under the Camarilla. The Anarch movement dates back to the 15th century, rejecting the authority of the Camarilla to form a less centralized society. Typically, Anarchs and other outsiders are viewed as rabble by those of the Ivory Tower. Brujah date back to ancient times, only having recently left the Camarilla to join the Anarchs. Fiercely independent, they push for radical change, are quick to anger, and embrace those passionate about their cause. Naturally, they enter the frenzy state more readily than other clans when frustrated. Also known as ferals, Gangrel are a nomadic clan that typically dwell in forests, rural areas, or the periphery of urban areas. Loners, they are in touch with their vampiric beast side to such an extent that it causes them to permanently gain an animalistic physical feature, such as fur or cat-like eyes, whenever they enter the frenzy state. Descended from the antediluvian known as Set, who was worshipped as the Egyptian god, the clan known as the Ministry are truly creatures of darkness. Seeking to usurp common morality, they are essentially a religious cult that continues to spread the corruption of their master. Viewing themselves as liberators, they wield temptation to achieve their goals, and are particularly susceptible to any bright light, even beyond the typical vampiric aversion to sunlight. Predated by the Anarchs, the Sabbat is a long-time antagonist of the Camarilla. Rejecting the traditions and masquerade, they are a militant cult that embraces the murderous beast aspect of vampirism. Viewing clan loyalty as meaningless, they seek to destroy the antediluvians, seeing them as tyrants. Originally, they were composed of two main clans, the Tzimisce and the Lasombra. Descending from voivode nobility of Eastern Europe, Clan Tzimisce strike fear as notorious slavers, and notably the clan of Dracula himself. Their discipline of vicissitude grants them the terrifying power of flesh crafting, allowing them to shape their own bodies to be beautiful or monstrous, as well as inflict torture on their victims, transforming them into slaves called Shalakta. Several victims may also be merged together to create a war construct known as a Vozd. With an existence revolving around possession, members of Tzimisce must rest near their property during the day, typically handfuls of soil from their homeland. They also have a lasting feud with the Tremere, after the original Tremere mages tortured them to gain secrets and blood. Meanwhile, the Lasombra are driven by a lust for power. Through ruthlessness, betrayal, and scheming, they achieve their goals, utilizing their connection to a primordial darkness known as the Abyss. This grants them the discipline known as Oblivion, the mastery of commanding shadows to conceal, attack, or even teleport. Lasombra despise weakness, and having forsaken their humanity, will have their image absent or distorted in reflections or video recordings. Both Tzimisce and Lasombra gained infamy after diablerizing their own antediluvians in the 1450s. Originally Anarchs, they would go on to form the Sabbat together, along with many clanless vampires known as the Caitelif, as well as individual anti-tribu vampires from the Camarilla. Recently, many Lasombra have been cautiously reinstated into the Camarilla after fleeing the Sabbat. Outside of the Camarilla, Sabbat, and Anarch sects, independent vampire clans pursue their own agendas across the globe. Known as Autarkis, they have distinct organizations and cultures. Their goals may sometimes conflict with those of mainstream vampire society, bringing them into conflict. Taking on the role of judge, jury, and executioner are the Banu Hakim. Striving to preserve order, they adhere to strict oaths and religious laws and act as assassins against those they perceive as being a threat to the kindred collective, such as those violating the Masquerade. Like the Tremere, they are masters of blood sorcery, although their bane causes them to experience the urge to commit diablerie and consume the vitae of other vampires. Grave Robbers and the Clan of Death are the other titles bestowed upon Clan Hikata. They are a morbid collection of necromancers who traffic in corpses and commune with spirits. At first, Hikata consisted of Cappadocians, but were usurped by the Giovanni family. Cappadocians still exist within the clan under the name the Harbingers of Asher, alongside the Giovannis and the flesh-eating Nagaraja. Tied so closely to death and rot, they have an emaciated appearance, and their surroundings will gradually decay due to their aura. The bite of a Hakata is especially painful to receive, causing harm to mortals that experience it. Lastly, the nomadic Ravnos clan are renowned for their skill in thievery and deceit. Prizing self-reliance, they are another of the less trusted kindred clans, since even their bane compels them to commit at least one con, lie, or manipulation per night. There also exist bloodlines, essentially offshoots of the main clans that exist as minor powers. They typically occur when a magical ritual or political schism results in a newly embraced child inheriting a variant of the clan's bane or discipline. Some examples are the Children of Osiris, True Bruja, or Daughters of Cacophony. Not alone in the World of Darkness setting, vampires have an often antagonistic relationship with other supernatural creatures. Chief among these are werewolves, or Garou. These lupine shapeshifters see themselves as protective warriors of nature, and vampires as parasites draining life from the earth. As such, a werewolf will typically attack a vampire on sight, being one of the few beings that can inflict the true death upon the undead. Vampires, conversely, see werewolves as brutish and feral, preferring to usually avoid or placate them. Spirits of the restless dead are ghosts known as Wraiths. They typically come into contact with vampires of the Hakata clan, since they deal heavily with the world of the dead, or Shadowlands. Unfinished business, referred to as fetters, binds them to the material world, the Skinlands, where they seek to achieve what they failed in life. A wraith's sinister, tormenting personality is known as a shadow, and, in cases where a vampire has suffered the final death, may contain aspects of the vampire's beast side if the vampire has become a wraith in the afterlife. Magi are humans that have learned to wield magic by altering reality to their will. Having undergone an existential awakening, they see our world's natural laws as being governed by a consensus of all existing minds. To a mage, a vampire is a relic of static reality, opposed to true magic. Even elders among the kindred treat magi with extreme caution, utilizing them for occult knowledge or manipulating them if possible. Representing the fantastical, vibrant aspect of reality has put the mystical Fae at odds with the undead kindred. Since vampires are creatures of hunger and death, the Fae, or changelings, find them repulsive, their glamour compelling them to maintain a sense of wonder that finds a vampire's banal nature toxic. Vampires themselves find Fae to be irritating and overly emotional, and even feeding off them has been known to induce a permanent frenzy. Once servants of the divine god machine, demons in World of Darkness are fallen angels that are regarded with fear and confusion by vampires. Like Fae, demons inhabit mortal bodies they refer to as covers. Engaging in complex plots, demons are not suitable prey for the kindred, as their blood offers no nourishment, and they may even have a narcotic or sickening effect upon consumption. Demonic vitae may also leave the vampire with a devil's mark, turning the undead into a pawn of the fallen one, nor are they capable of establishing a blood bond. In any case, battling a demon tends to attract cosmic attention to the offending vampire, and is avoided when possible. Mummies in the setting are not actually undead creatures, but immortal beings that have been resurrected by the powerful spell of life. Infused with divine energy of Sekhem, they exist to battle corruption and unbalance. Vampires are seen as agents of the entropic Egyptian god Apophis, opposed to the mummy's chief life-giving deity of Osiris, and thus are sworn enemies. Specifically, the vampiric clan known as the Ministry, as followers of Set, have an ancient feud with them since Osiris is said to have slain their antediluvian. The blood of mummies is thought to be especially potent, even capable of restoring a portion of a vampire's humanity. In fact, mummies are unable to be embraced by the kindred, as the Sekhem energy suffusing their bodies is powerful enough to reject the curse of Caine. Of all adversaries facing the undead kindred, however, mortals known as vampire hunters may be the most numerous. Initially becoming aware of the existence of vampires during the First Inquisition of the 15th century, those humans that hunt the kindred exist in the modern day as members of secretive global organizations, localized cells, or even lone individuals. Utilizing high-tech weapons and equipment, the Second Inquisition arose to be a major threat to the Camarilla, backed by the Vatican and FBI, among others. Their US branch is known as First Light, while the UK branch is called the JTRG, or Joint Task Force Redacted. Dating back to the First Inquisition, the Society of Leopold aims to eliminate all supernatural evil, viewing such forces as minions of the Antichrist. Operating under the Roman Catholic Church, they're fanatical in their pursuit, and are well versed in both knowledge and fighting of kindred. They also work in conjunction with other clandestine Vatican groups, such as Gladius Dei. Beyond technological resources, vampire hunters may also wield supernatural powers of their own. One sort, known as endowments, may be bestowed upon them by their faction, an angel's touch, or personal accomplishments. These include many things like divine protection, hellfire, or tongue of Babel that provide enhanced resilience, powerful attacks, or the ability to comprehend any language, for example. Other hunters, known as the imbued, may have edges given to them by mysterious beings known as the messengers that function much the same way, being designed to nullify or counter supernatural beings. Of all powers among mortals, it is the true faith that may be the rarest and most formidable, manifesting in those that possess great piety and preventing them from being bitten by vampires. Such a gift may cause a kindred to be repelled or suffer extreme damage from attacks. As things progress, there are whispers that a vampire apocalypse is approaching. Known as Gehenna, ancient prophecies speak of antediluvians rising from their slumber to devour all kindred, having been driven mad by age and thirst. Foretold by the beckoning in the Middle East, the rise of thin bloods, and the crusade of the Second Inquisition, the time of Caine's progeny may be nearing its end. In the coming war, not even the undying can live forever.
Hi guys, are you watching Excalibur for channel for gaming, stories and more? You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch and Reddit. Remember to like, subscribe and follow.